During the past winter retreat, took some time to read and listen to commentaries about the sutras in the Pali Canon. I think I've probably been influenced over the many years that during exploring monastic life, Venerable used to share stories of the Pali Sutras in regards to the Sangha and how the Buddha would teach and train and guide them. And I was always, I always loved that part of exploring monastic life. It kind of gave us a window to kind of understand and begin to know how the Buddha thought and how he taught and articulated this path of practice to liberation to quite a vast, diverse array of people joining his Sangha with amazing wisdom and compassion and skill. And it was with whoever was in front of him. He was just so skilled, so tuned into people. And in most of the suttas, they were laid out in response to questions or situations that arose when he was walking through villages and towns. He'd talk to the laity, he'd talk to kings who were stressed out about ruling their countries, how to deal with wise minds or difficulties that would arise. He would, meet the Brahmins wherever they were and the non-Buddhists who would continually be trying to refute the wisdom of his teachings. But many of the sutras were in response to something that happened in the Sangha, or a question that was posed by a member group of the Sangha, or his response to some monastic's behavior. So after the teachings on the Four Truths this past week, it's just once again got me even more inspired by his wisdom and his precision on being able to explain what he understood to be true. So for this past winter, I have been reading. I did listen to some audio teachings on the middle length discourses of the Buddha, the Majjhima Nikaya. Very heavy, the pages are very thin, and it's filled with treasures. And I came upon a short sutta called the Badali Sutta. And I have read this thing, I can't tell you how many times. It is, I think, a wonderful example of how the Buddha's wisdom, compassion, and skillful means guided this Sangha, especially when they went astray. He was amazing. I mean, I didn't find any commentaries on the sutta, so I've read it so many times, and every time I've gotten something else out of it. So what you're going to be hearing are my thoughts. And I believe that this sutta, in some aspect, is quite relevant to living in a monastic community now, and how we listen and take heed of advice and guidelines and precepts, and that for the Buddha there were different levels of approach depending on who he was speaking with. And Badali was interesting character. So I want to share my thoughts on this. I'll see how far I get. It's only 9 pages, but it's filled with a lot of very profound teachings from the Buddha. So first it begins, thus I have heard on occasion, the Blessed One was living at Sravasti, at Jeta's Grove on Anathapindika's park, when he addressed the bhikshus and said, "Bhikshus, I eat at a single session. By doing so, I am free from illness and affliction, and I enjoy lightness, strength, and a comfortable abiding. Come, bhikshus, eat at a single session. By doing so, you too will be free from illness, affliction, and you'll enjoy lightness, strength, and comfortable abiding." So this refers to the Buddha's practice of eating a single meal before noon each day. He had been doing it all of his monastic life. And according to the Pratimoksha, monastics are prohibited from eating from noon until dawn the following day. But this idea of a single session meal practice, from what the footnotes say, this was somewhat of just a recommendation, but not required. And in fact, there's another sutta, and there's a few ahead, called the Kittagiri Sutra, where it sounds like the Buddha has had to go through a process of weaning the Sangha from attachment to food. Because in that sutta, he's also saying, I've stopped eating at night for the same reason, so that I am free from illness and affliction, and you'll enjoy lightness, strength, and comfortable abiding. So he's trying to work on the attachment to food with his Sangha. And over the years, he's gotten to the point now where he really feels that they're ready to this single session, one meal, bring it back and eat, and and the benefits of it is that your mind is clear, you've got a lightness, a brightness of mind. So Venerable Badali does not like what he's heard. He says, I cannot do this because of anxiety and worry. And the footnote says he really is concerned that he's not going to be able to sustain the holy life if he's left to only eating one meal every 30 hours. So the Buddha then comes back and says, okay, where you are invited, eat there, and then bring back part of the food to eat later on. And in that way, you will maintain yourself. And Badali says, Venerable Sir, I will not do that because I have worry and anxiety. In fact, I don't know, because it still requires him to have to finish the meal by noon. So he could snack all morning, but he still doesn't think that that's sufficient. So he has decided he's not going to follow this precept. So then the Buddha makes this official as a training precept of eating only one session a day. And he basically says for the bhikshus and the bhikshunis, the monastics, that we're going to implement this training. And Venerable Badali refuses to comply. So sometime in the near future, they enter Varsa. And so they stay put at Sravasti. Venerable Badali is probably doing his thing, eating whenever he feels he needs to eat. All the rest of the sangha is trying to adhere to this precept. And so the bhikshus are making a robe for the Buddha because they know once the Varsa is over, he's going to be going wandering, and they wanted to make the robe for him. And Venerable Badali comes to visit the bhikshus who are making this robe. And the bhikshus say to him, you know, friend, give proper attention to this advice, referring to the new precept. Don't let it become difficult for you later on. We'll find out that these words are very, very important words that the bhikshu elders have said to him. So he says, okay, friends, I'm going to go and apologize to the Buddha. So he goes to the Buddha and he says, Venerable Sir, transgressions overcame me in that like a fool, confused and blundering when a training precept was being made known by the Blessed One, when the sangha of the bhikshus was undertaking the trainings, I declared my refusal to comply. Venerable Sir, may the Blessed One forgive my transgression, seen as such for the sake of restraint in the future. The Buddha does not accept his apology. Surely, Badali, a transgression overcame you. And the Buddha does this a lot. He reflects back what he hears to make sure that he's hearing things correctly. He says, Badali, after he responds and reflects back to him what he said, he says, this circumstance was not recognized by you. The Blessed One who's living in Sravasti, and the Blessed One will know me thus. The Bhikshu Badali is one who does not fulfill the trainings in the teacher's dispensation. That is how you will be known by your teacher. That you do not comply, you don't give it a shot, you don't try, you don't follow the training rules. And he proceeds to say, you don't recognize that many of the bhikshus taking up residence at Sravasti for the rains will know you as thus. Venerable Badali is the bhikshu who does not fulfill the trainings of the disposition of the teacher. And he goes, the bhikshunis will see this, you're out there doing your alms round, you're doing whatever you want. The many men lay followers, the many women lay followers, the Brahmins, the recluses, the matted hair ascetics are all going to be seeing Venerable Badali. The elder disciple of the recluse Gautami is one who does not fill the training in the teacher's dispensation. You don't even know that this impacts the way people perceive the sangha. It's not even entered his mind. So here, the Buddha, you can see it's going from not just the behavior, but there's a mind behind the unwillingness to follow this precept. And it unpacks in the sutra like you would not believe the mind that the Buddha has to deal with. So what is Venerable Badali's response? Venerable Sir, a transgression overcame me in that like a fool, confused and blundering when a training precept was being made. He basically puts his apology out there a second time. The Buddha does not accept the apology the second time. And this part here is a little bit hard to understand. I'm trying to put the pieces together. But what he says in response to the second effort to apologize by Venerable Badali, he says, what do you think, Badali? Suppose a bhikshu here were one liberated in both ways. So there is the Kitagiri Sutta that talks about these 7 types of noble individuals that through the practice of fulfilling the trainings of the Blessed Ones, they're starting to attain the fruits of their practice. There's one that is liberated in both ways, liberated by faith, one who has attained the view. What happens if one of these, I say, Bhikshu, be a plank for me across the mud? Would he walk across it himself? Would he dispose of his body for me? Or would he say no? Now, this is someone who has realizations. Venerable Badali says, he wouldn't do it for you. And he proceeds to say that for every one of these seven noble individuals, that if the Buddha were to say, please put yourself in the mud so I can cross the mud, that Venerable Badali says, I don't care what realizations that they have acquired. Due to the teachings of the Blessed One, they shouldn't lower themselves and put themselves in the mud so he can cross over. He doesn't get it that the reasons they have the realizations is because they're fulfilling the trainings of the teacher's dispensation. So then the Buddha says, well, what do you think, Badali? Were you on that occasion have any type of mind like that? Have you been liberated by wisdom? Have you been liberated in both ways? Have you been liberated by faith? And he says, no, Venerable Sir. Well, Badali, on that occasion, you were probably empty, hollow, and mistaken. So what the footnote says is that the Buddha would never give such a command to anybody to go and throw themselves in a pool of mud. But what he's trying to point out to Badali is that he's got this obstinate, uncooperative mind that has an issue around authority, has an issue around the respect that the teacher garners once you're gaining the fruits of your practice due to fulfilling the trainings and following the precepts. So the Buddha's trying to get Badali to see it's your mind that's the problem, not the precept that's the problem. And what does dear Venerable Badali say? Venerable Sir, a transgression overcame me, and that like a fool, confused and blundering when a training precept was being made. He gives him the third apology. He's not even listening. He just wants to get over, he just wants to get this over with the Buddha. Accept my apology, Blessed One, so I can go on my way and go have a meal or something, I don't know. And so the Buddha accepts his apology. And he says, since you see your transgression as such and make amends in accordance with the Dhamma, we forgive you on behalf of the Sangha. For it is growth of the noble one's discipline when one sees one's transgression as such and makes amends in accordance with the Dhamma by undertaking restraint for the future. But the Buddha does not let him off the hook. And the rest of the sutra, I'll do a little bit more. He now sees the problem. And he is going to show Badali in his kind, compassionate, skillful way that the mind is the problem. So he continues. He doesn't say, your apology is accepted, goodbye, go have your meal. He says, some bhikshus who do not fulfill the training of the teacher's dispensation, and this is basically practicing what the Buddha has taught, the doctrine, the instructions, the precepts, the guidelines. Some bhikshu who does not fulfill that training, like you, that's me, that's my insert, considers this. Suppose I were to resort to a secluded resting place, a forest, a root of a tree, a mountain, a ravine, a hillside cave, a charnel ground. Perhaps I might realize a superhuman state, a distinction of knowledge and vision worthy of venerable ones. So he resorts to finding such resting place, withdraws from the Sangha, but because he is not behaving himself, he's not following the precepts and the guidelines, he has been censored not only by his teacher, but by his wise companions in the holy life. Even the gods are like, what is this bhikshu doing? And he even knows it in his heart himself. And as a result, he realizes no superhuman state. He realizes no distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones. Why is that? Because it is the one who does not fulfill the trainings in the teacher's dispensation. So the Buddha's trying to get him to see that there are causes and conditions for what he wants, and he's not doing it. Because then he says to Badali, a bhikshu who does fulfill the training can go into seclusion, into the hillside, a cave, a charnel ground. And because he's not censored by his teacher, that he is held in good standing with the community, he does attain the realizations that he's asking for. And why is that? Because he is following the precepts and training his mind and living in harmony with the Sangha. So what the Buddha does at this point, and it's so beautiful that he sets out the causes and conditions by fulfilling the trainings and caring for his mind and keeping the precepts and following the teachings of the Buddha. Quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, he enters upon and abides in the first jhana. The Buddha unpacks all of the causes As a result of your practice, of your ability to follow your teacher's instructions, you will attain the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied and sustained thought with rapture and pleasure. Why is that? Because this one has fulfilled the training of the teacher's dispensation. Afterwards, after that, stilling that applied, sustained thought, he attains the second jhana. And he talks about the third jhana, the fourth jhana. 5 super knowledges. Why do you get them? Because you have fulfilled the training of the teacher's dispensation, all the way to liberation, where he says, this bhikkhu who has taken the training to heart, birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what had been done has been done, there is no more coming to any state of being. Why is that? Because he has fulfilled the trainings in the teacher's dispensation. I mean, the Buddha is totally laying out for Badali, this is what you need to do. The fruit of the practice. This is the causes and these are the conditions if you want these results. Not following the precepts, not following the trainings is one of the major reasons why the senior bhikshu said, don't let this become a problem for you. Not just eating, but it becomes an obstacle in the mind on how to be able to gain realizations. So I'll stop here with Venerable Badali's response. Venerable Sir, what is the cause? What is the reason why they take action against some bhikshu who, by repeatedly admonishing him? What is the cause? What is the reason? Why do you take such action against some bhikshus where you don't with others? He is not getting, he has no clue. He keeps going, it's got to be something up here. You're treating me unfairly, and why are you doing that? Why is it, it's not fair? That's where he's going. The Buddha has given him the entire path, and he's asking, it's not fair. So I will continue with more of this the next time, because the Buddha really does, I mean, he continues until the very end of the sutta, where Badali just totally, light bulb goes off in his head, but the Buddha has to continue some more of his skillful means. Anyway, for another time.